Hello, guys and gals. Me, Mudahar, and honest to God, man, let me tell you right now, I hate the copyright system. Now, this is a video that I was working on, and I had to like retouch up because a lot of developments happened. Okay, now for anybody that doesn't know, Nintendo took down the Yuzu emulator. I would say a couple of weeks ago at this point. They sent a fat lawsuit down to the company that ran Yuzu and Citra and basically, accused them of piracy, enabling piracy, and a whole bunch of other shenanigans. Now, I think the validity of that lawsuit is a bit questionable, very questionable, and obviously I think all of you know me here. I'm an emulator lover, okay? I don't just fire up emulators, I make love to that shit, okay? I'm not even messing around. But anyways, Yuzu was taken down, but it didn't stop all the other competitors. Switch emulation is still alive and dandy. One of the big players was taken down. Now, because Yuzu was open source, they ended up, this team that's running this project called Suyu jumped in and basically grabbed the fork of the original code and are effectively keeping the entire thing alive. Now, to understand, I wanted to jump in and see, whoa, hold on a minute. How is it that Nintendo can drop a fat lawsuit on one company and then these guys can just take the code and I guess slightly launder it and then Nintendo doesn't give a shit anymore? See, a lot of that lawsuit was relegated around piracy and a lot of Discord communications that happened when discussing recently launched Nintendo games like Tears of the Kingdom. Now, obviously, I'm not going to show any Nintendo footage in this video right here because I don't want to get goat seed live in front of you guys, okay? It's not going to happen. So right here with Soyu, they're like, whoa, how is this project different? So unlike Yuzu, Soyu does not include many of the core requirements to run it. You need to legally dump your Nintendo Switch to obtain a title key file, which Yuzu did not do. Additionally, you must dump your own firmware. So they added a couple extra steps, which if you have a hackable Switch like I do, this doesn't really make anything difficult or anything. You just have to go through a couple extra dumps. I actually just had them sitting on my drive anyways, so I was able to download and get this emulator going. They said the purpose of Soyu is to provide a free, open source alternative to the now dead Yuzu. So again, ladies and gentlemen, effectively, people who are like kind of cheering, and this is a weird thing I find, this is just relegated to like Nintendo fanboys, not the general Nintendo community. I think the general Nintendo community is pretty awesome. It's just the amount of cocksuckers that get on their knees to suck off a faceless, multi-billion-dollar company that could never understand what they say. We're cheering the death of an emulator, like cheering the death of an actual tool that could be used for proper game preservation, right? Now, obviously, I'm not a dipshit here. I'm not going to pretend that there weren't people who had the Yuzu emulator that were like, oh shit, is that Tears of the Kingdom? Let me just pirate that file and run it. Clearly, there was piracy, okay? But obviously, with a tool like an emulator, lots of bad people exist to use it for bad reasons, just like a lot of people use it for some pretty good reasons, and I'll get into exactly what good reasons they are, okay? Actual, real-world, defendable reasons. But again, the reason why I wanted to talk about this too is because I saw this emulator, so I was like, all right, let me go grab and download it. So I actually have it right here, the first actual mainline build. Now, I actually did download their source code, build it, but they ended up providing a mainline like literally as my build completed. So I actually launched it right over here, and ladies and gentlemen, lo and behold, it actually is a full-on emulator. So you can run a lot of your, classic Nintendo games right on here. So shit like Super Mario Odyssey, stuff like Shin Megami Tensei 5, which is already getting a PC release anyway, so it doesn't really matter. And then, of course, Super Smash Brothers, which I'm not going to show because I haven't exactly dumped it yet. But yeah, that's basically the emulator. And if you fire it up, the games actually are just running as they used to. Like, it literally is just the goddamn Yuzu emulator. So Red Dead Redemption, fired up right here, runs just like it does. And what's funny about it too is it's got like all the features and then some features that were planned for Yuzu, but they just happen to enable them effectively for the system right here. Now, obviously, you might be like, Muda, why did you title the video You Hate Copyright Law? Well, literally, as I was filming the video originally, the fucking project was taken down by a DMCA. So at this moment, I was like thinking, well, hold on a minute. Maybe Nintendo sued another developer as I was there. Maybe I'm holding on to other code that is also technically illegal. it wasn't actually that case. So of course, ladies and gentlemen, this is the GitLab project for Soyu Emu, and you can download it for, you know, Windows, Linux, Mac OS. So if you want to get this running on the Steam Deck, you can. If you want to get this running on your MacBook, you can. If you got a Windows computer, it's right there ready to go. So one of the wildest things about this too was they actually ended up getting a DMCA request. So I got an actual DMCA request here, the one that they got from a site called Overkill. And they actually said, a description of the copyrighted work you claim is being infringed. Soyu is based off Yuzu code, which violates section 1201 of the DMCA. Soyu, like Yuzu, is primarily designed to circumvent Nintendo's technical protection measures. Namely, Soyu unlawfully uses unauthorized copies of cryptographic keys to decrypt unauthorized copies of Nintendo Switch games, or ROMs, or immediately before runtime without Nintendo's authorization. What Soyu and every other emulator is doing is effectively the same thing. We are all, by definition of Nintendo's word, actually, decrypting their copies without authorization, by the way. Nintendo does not authorize any of us to use emulators. So technically, no matter what software you use, you are violating that sentence if you're going by Nintendo's definition. Remember, if this is not taken to court, which it hasn't, the previous reverse engineering hazy definitions still somewhat apply. The best benefit of the whole Yuzu settlement was literally that this didn't go to court. If Nintendo got their way, these emulators, and potentially many others, could have actually ceased to exist because they would literally be defined as piracy tools. So again, going down into it, they actually just ended up getting this DMCA. And now it apparently seems like Nintendo didn't even send that shit. Even the actual development team doesn't even believe that it's a Nintendo. There's a chance that it's a copyright troll. Now, one thing that I find so weird about the DMCA system is like YouTube, the amount of people that can just willfully go onto any big platform and just write a fucking form, send it out, and the entire project, literally people's livelihoods, just get completely taken down. It's kind of like dealing with YouTube DMCA stuff too. Well, in a lot of cases, YouTube is definitely very helpful. Like, I've had people actually drop like copyright lawsuits against me, like copyright suits on me, I would say like last month, and then YouTube literally jumps in and they're like, hold on. This seems a little fishy. So this seems a little weird, champ. So that's kind of where YouTube and like a lot of these sites will step in. But generally, the DMCA, for people who don't know, is just a legal tool. And for a lot of these sites, they really don't have any option. It really is fair game. It really is like a fair game for anybody to impersonate whoever they want and just basically get rid of things entirely on the internet. Now, thankfully, in this situation, what has happened is like the actual developers for Soyu basically made their own Git, so they're operating their own entire repository. So if they get DMCA'd by actual Nintendo, maybe then things are different. But now the average Andy just cannot send anything out there. I really do think the idea of DMCA is so weird that open source code, which was once very open source and forked, if Nintendo basically sues Yuzu and grabs their domains and whatnot, all of a sudden people think retroactively code that was once written just now automatically belongs to Nintendo and gets taken out of the public zeitgeist is just insane to witness. There really needs to be an update to these kind of laws. But generally, going into what the actual original video I had planned is, Nintendo kind of really didn't do anything. At the end of the day, this hoopla was raised around an emulator, I would say weeks ago. And the actual benefit of it is people actually started asking the questions of piracy and game preservation more than they ever did before. Now, obviously, I think game preservation is one of the most important things in video games. I don't really want to be a part of the video game world when we don't actually have access to our games. If we ever get to a point where all of our games are tied to online services and we have no reason to preserve them, then I have so much of a backlog of video games and classic titles that I will probably never be able to finish them until I actually die of natural causes. So, or through any other method. Who knows, right? The world is a random place to walk into. So when it comes to like video gaming and it comes to emulation software, this is the only stuff that keeps video games pretty much preserved. You know, games like Red Dead Redemption, for instance, don't actually have a PC release at all. Very recently, Rockstar released these games for PS4 and Nintendo Switch, and what's wild about it is if you have the Nintendo Switch version, which I actually bought and dumped, you can take that dump, put it on any of these emulators like Ryujinx, for instance, uncap the frame rate, and actually play Red Dead Redemption with high quality assets at 60 frames per second. Literally, it is insane to see how clean this game looks running under a PC when the resolution is bumped up and the frame rate is pretty much unlocked. It quite possibly is the best way to play this game. And for Red Dead Redemption, when you play Red Dead 2, which is basically a prequel, this is the next part of that storyline. So in order to properly experience it on the PC, you kind of have to get an emulator and play a preserved version of a video game that is still locked to consoles. You know, another game that really blows me away is a game known as Astral Chain, which again is a game by Platinum, and this game blows my mind because it is 60 frames per second glory goodness on an emulator, something that is not able to be replicated on the original Switch hardware. On the original Switch, this game looks great, but runs at 30, and it's a whole world of difference playing a Platinum game title at 60 frames per second, all through an emulator, literally because you were able to upscale the game and play it as it probably should be played. Again, these are just two examples out there, but yeah, I wanted to just bring this up because the emulator never really died. The actual Switch emulator is still here. Unfortunately, though, it seems like a lot of these projects are being weirdly targeted by copyright trolls, and honestly, I wish the system was a bit different. I really wish the way of reporting this was a bit different, because it seems like every site you go to, you can just send out any fucking request you want, and at this point, it specifically happens with Nintendo. Like, it seems like a lot of people love to impersonate Nintendo legal to the point where it's really difficult to discern if you got hit by Nintendo or some copyright troll pretending to be Nintendo. You really have to gamble with your counter lawsuit. Is it gonna be like, is it gonna be like scumbag Steve suing me? Or am I actually getting sued by Nintendo? It's insane. The system needs to goddamn change. And honestly, beyond all of it, I think things like DMCA laws and laws regarding emulators probably should be updated, right? We're kind of sitting here in a weird limbo where software like this is ultimately treated like a piracy tool by these big, you know, tech companies, by these big gaming companies, these gaming publishers that want to demonize the software, when in reality, it's the only software that keeps their entire libraries alive for newer generations to experience. That said, though, ladies and gentlemen, this is me, Mutahar, and yeah, wild stuff. Tomorrow, I got a bounty to discuss. This is me, Mutahar, and I am out.